Okay, are we,
I'm sorry. The only change we've talked about is changing the registration packet and the way the fees are paid. But this change, this new ordinance completely strikes out the annual registration of rental properties. Completely strikes that out.
That was done months ago,
If they
5
have the
months
same
ago.
tenant, yes.
It was in the ordinance 5 months ago.
5 months ago, then why is it struck out in here? In the strikeout copy?
The annual fee,
The annual registration.
the annual fee,
Yeah.
that was struck out in
Then
the
how come it was
first
still in
month.
here in the strikeouts?
Because this ordinance has been on 3 readings for 5 months, it's the same one.
So it hasn't been struck out yet. It hasn't been passed yet. How can you say it?
It was struck out from the previous ordinance.
It was
That's
proposed.
something that was changed.
What previous ordinance?
Oh, my God.
It was proposed 5 months
It was
ago.
proposed, it wasn't passed. Yeah.
No, I take the ordinance out of the codification, the one that's law now. And then, depending on what the council wants, or the building commissioner, some sentences are struck out, some are added. Depending on the color, or the strikeout, or double, single, whatever. And so that was struck out originally on the first reading, that's how it read.
Oh, but it's still law that you have to register your property.
You still have to
before
register, but
January
there's,
1st.
not every year, no.
Yeah.
You only will
That's
register.
what it says, on or before
That's
January
still
1st
law.
of each calendar year.
that's still the law, we're trying to
Yeah.
change it.
That's what I'm saying, that's a change, that's another change that we should be aware of.
It
It's not
was
just a matter
there.
of, it's not just a matter of changing the registration packet and kind of the paperwork side of it. This is striking out all requirements for annual registrations.
That was the purpose of the ordinance that we came in.
I understand that. I'm saying that that is a proposed change in here. So that part hasn't even
Mr.
been
Brownlee, is this the
discussed.
first time you realize that?
I'm letting everyone know, because we're the committee.
We all
We all know.
have copies of these, and people should
You
have
obviously
read
did, you
them.
just said it wasn't, anyway. So I've said, made the comment. So,
Yes, I think we've had enough comment that we should be able to vote. Please
Okay,
call the roll.
I'm calling the roll on the adoption of ordinance number 2014-36. Brownlee,
No.
Trojansky,
Yes.
Agee,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Safrati,
Yes.
Jackson. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 1 no. Ordinance number 2014-60, an emergency ordinance approving the mayor's 2014 financial recovery plan and directing that the plan be submitted to the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission at their first meeting of the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission for the city of Maple Heights, Ohio.
This ordinance is on its second reading, and I believe that we had some changes to the original that we looked at last night. Is that correct, Diane?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need the microphone out here?
No.
I'm just curious, on the last ordinance, you voted to take it out of committee, right?
Mhm.
Did you vote to pass it?
Yes,
So it was 2 votes?
there were 5 votes.
Wait a minute.
No,
No, wait a minute.
there were,
You only adopted that.
You just,
You had to pull it out.
All right.
Did they? Yeah. Did they vote on it?
yes, we did.
Okay.
How many?
Yeah.
okay, just want to make sure.
Okay.
It's kind of confusing. If I don't say something, it's wrong.
Okay, I understand.
Can we skip this, we want to leave this to the end of the agenda and we go through the other readings real quick, so everybody, I don't know if everybody wants to stay for everything anyway, but.
Yes, I have
Good evening. From our discussion last night, of course, we said there was going to be some revisions, which are minor, to the 5-year forecast. So hopefully we can go through that in about 5 minutes. The new item that I have is the narrative. And I think most of you received the correspondence today that I sent in regards to the items that we need to complete to make this very final for submission to the fiscal supervisor, the auditor, state representative. Very quickly, we have before us again the general fund. And the changes that were asked, that we discussed, were the changes for the mayor's department office for the salary that had been voted in and acted for year 2016. So on page, thank you very much. On page 5, under the mayor's office, you'll see in 2016 the changes reflecting the action that this body had taken. Okay, so that's one change from last night. The other thing that I said I was going to do, because it had not been officially approved, the health benefits were going to be dropped below the line as action items, recovery items, because they have not officially been approved. So if you look on page 9, the last page, under the recovery items, you'll see a couple things that's been added there. The one is 1F, which is the healthcare savings for police and fire if their contract is adjusted or revised or voted on to include the new health plan that went into effect on June 1st for the non-bargaining staff. So forecasted from 2015 to 18, you'll see that the 203,000 is basically the savings in premiums for those two departments, for the police and fire. As you know, the non-bargaining and some others have started June 1st, and I think that was part of the contract for the correctional officers. Right below that, there's a corresponding item where it's the contributions that are associated with those health care savings that we will benefit from police and fire. So in other words, their contribution to the plan would be the $55,000 in terms of deductions from their paychecks for their subsidy. And the next item is the council reduction that was taken from the proposed legislation, which is listed here. And the $45,000 is the amount that was projected when we were asked to provide that documentation to Mr. Councilman Seth Wright. So those were the three major changes. And of course, you know, the changes in terms of the police and fire affected their benefits. So on the first page for police, on the benefits, that number changed to reflect the movement of those benefits. And then same for fire. So for the most part, those were the only changes from last night. And unless something else comes up, I consider that we're finished with the general fund.
Thank you. Go ahead, Richard.
If, regarding H1H, that wouldn't take effect until 2016. That's the only thing that, with regards to the council salary and the council president, none of that wouldn't take effect until 2016.
Okay, so even though it may go on the ballot this
Yeah, it
year,
would take effect until the next term of council, which would be 2016.
okay, it would not take effect immediately. Okay, I'll take note. Okay. So that would be pulled out from under 2015.
Probably same thing with the mayors. Is the mayor had the same election? years
Right,
ago?
that's right.
And my understanding was that in 2016, that the mayor, there was legislation already passed,
Yeah.
that his salary would change in 16.
So the big change.
So in 2016, you'll see the reflection of the $15,000 drop there. There it was. Should be a Well, according to the legislation, they gave an amount of 80,000. It didn't say how much it would drop. It said that it would be dropped, that the new salary would be 80,000. So this is projected at 80,000. It really isn't 20 because I think it's about 95, so it's really 15,000.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
On the, under fire on page 2, on top of page 2, what is other pay? I see there's zeros in it in 11, 12, and 13, and then in 14 it starts up. What is other pay?
Okay, per our discussion last night, the other pay would be payouts, longevity, so on and so forth. Be mindful that this document is not the way that it will be presented to the auditor's state. I expanded for our benefit, so I didn't want to combine. When we send documents to them, it would be salaries, pretty much in others. But I broke out their others, so if you look at 2011 and 12, their others are rolled up into salaries.
In salary?
Like, you know, payouts, uniforms, education, all of those other pays. But for the benefit of discussion, I thought that you may want to see that broken out. When it actually goes to the auditor's state, it will not be. It will basically be like the 2011, 12, and 13. This is how they want it sent to them. So the other pay will roll up to salary.
So this was an unusual year in the amount of payouts.
I can't say that. All I do is report the information. It could be, you know, this is my first year. I don't know if there's been a year similar to this in the past where there may have been layoffs, you know, several layoffs. But I think you probably have that information.
How was the forecasted years, 15 and on, how were those calculated? I see they're not even a third of that number.
Mr. Browning, in all due respect, because I have to leave about 7:15. We discussed this last night, so I don't
No,
say
actually, we did not discuss
No, we did
other
discuss
pay.
it. What I had said, that these numbers reflect changes in staffing. We did discuss that. Some was layoffs, some resignations, some attrition. We did discuss that.
So
in all the
other
meetings.
pay dropping is a function of less people on staff.
No, that's not what I said.
That's
The
what
other
you just
pay,
said.
no, I didn't. You asked me about the salaries.
We're not talking about salaries right now. We're talking about.
Actually, I'm not talking about anything. We discussed this last night, and I really do have to leave for personal reasons. So if there's other questions that we have not discussed for the last several meetings, I'll be happy to entertain.
So then overtime there on the fire, we have all different kinds of numbers. This year, once again, is extremely high compared to previous years, but then we have forecasted a much lower number. What is the rationale for that?
Mr. Barowlik, these are numbers that you said they're forecasted.
So you just guess?
I guessed, or whatever you want to say at the
Okay,
end.
well then you either have a reason or you guess.
Mr.
So what's the
Barowlik, I'm
reason?
through with that, if you don't mind, okay?
You're through with answering questions.
I'm through with answering the same question that we've
Oh,
discussed
this
for
is
the
a
last
different
4 or
question.
5 meetings.
Overtime is significantly higher in 2014. Why is that?
You have
Why
no
will it be
idea why
less
that is? Have you been
in the future
attending council
years?
meetings? Have you been attending council
I
meetings?
didn't ask you to insult me, I asked you to answer the
I'm
question.
not
Excuse
answering
me,
that
Mr.
question. I've answered
Brownlee.
it already.
You did not answer at all.
You have no idea why 2014 number is what it is.
Why is the overtime so much higher, and why will it be less in 2015 and moving forward?
You know the answer to that question, Mr. Brownlee?
No, I actually do not know the answer to that question.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Melling.
to properly address issues like this, when department heads are made available to respond, questions should be presented to the chair. And questions should be presented to the chair in order, and then in the event there is an appropriate response that could be provided in order to clarify those questions, the chair can recognize the department head to respond. This is not an inquisition. This is not cross-examination. This is questions that any member of council might have that they would like to have clarified, and if the department chair wants to address those issues, they can be recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Melling. I think if
So then,
we
Madam
have
Chair,
no
I'd
fur-
like to ask a question.
I'm not going to
On page
recognize
2.
you at this point in time. Mr.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I can be recognized. you are
Go
permitted
ahead.
2 opportunities to respond
Sorry.
with regard to this. You will recognize twice. You do not have to do any questions. You present one at a time. If addressing the chair, you can provide a list of questions that you have relating to the study you put in, to the legislation being presented, and then the chair can recognize anyone that might be permitted to respond to those questions. Okay?
Thank you. At this point in time, if there's no other question for Irene, we are going to plan on looking at this on the 28th, on Monday, and hopefully passing this. So if you have additional suggestions, ideas, comments, questions for Irene, I'm sure she'll be able to look at them on Monday.
Madam Chair, I do have
Go ahead, Alex.
for
Yes.
school cards. 83,013, 74,014, 58,000. That's because of layoffs, we're gonna lay off how many school cards?
There's 3, to my knowledge, is projected not to return with the program the next school year. 3, yes.
Madam
That's the
President,
information I have.
Thank
Mayor, I
you.
think we talked about this before, but if you'd like to clarify. Go ahead.
Clarify, we had one school guard passed away and 2 retired or resigned, or both. So that's why we're down 3.
Did that answer your question, Alex?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Irene.
So I'll make the change in regards to the council. This will be there for 2016.
But Irene, how is that different from the 2 levies that are on?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2 days.
The 2 levies will not kick in until the 16th either.
I think I projected them for 2016. Here are the first 2 items.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so this one first.
Just move that.
Yes,
Okay.
I will move
Okay,
that.
all right, very good. Okay, let's move on to 2014-60, please. I'm sorry, 61.
Excuse me, and then I passed out another document.
The-
This is the narrative that will accompany the document, and as I stated, what I have to complete, which I didn't have all the special revenues. And those are basically one-line items, it's not that much involved in them. It's the same document
Right.
format. It's just that it's for those special revenues that were listed, like the police and levy fund, and that the supervisors mentioned when we were here.
And our decision to go on the 28th is good.
Okay.
Okay,
So I should be back in town.
all right.
What you have is the narrative that will accompany the plan. And basically, what the narrative does is outline the purpose and how the plan will be implemented and monitored. So, starting on, and this is a new document, so if you have questions, if you read it later on, you can send me an email. But basically, it starts on page 1 with the objective of the financial recovery plan, stating that, we were placed in fiscal watch under a certain code, on an ORC code, and, what we plan to do as the budgeting. The budget process drives this whole plan, and that's why on the 5-year forecast is basically what we're projecting at this point, what our budget may be. So the budgeting process is very important to this whole success of the plan. And basically, this document is laying out how we will move through that. Then it talked about the budget process, the appropriations, which we're all familiar with. This body will approve appropriations in December for the next year. I think it's been customary here to do a temporary budget. It doesn't have to be, but I mean, whatever you decide. So just basically speak to that. And then also about the dates in terms of a timeline, when this process will start, who's involved in the process, and what the results and outcomes should be. So on page 2, it talks about the format, when we would start collecting the data, when it would be presented to council, when council would expect to approve it, the fact that it go to the financial supervisor who acts as the state of the auditor of the state, and the consequences if we do not get all of that taken care of. After that, we have the financial reports that talk about financial reporters and what the requirement and expectations are. So what's noted there is that the standard is that by the 12th day of the following month, we should have our financial statements prepared and submitted to the mayor, city council, and the financial supervisors, which is the auditor of the state. And then on the third page, it talks about the assurances of the financial recovery plan. And it's just basically attesting to the fact that we will conform to the statutes and we will, really monitor the budget and also take care of our debt obligations and, do this in adherence with whatever the reporting requirements of the state. And of course, it would be also, it asks for our anticipation of terminating the fiscal watch. I put in there 2016 based on the numbers that we have, but if this body sees something different, or the mayor, in terms of when we hope to be out of fiscal watch, that date, whatever this body or the mayor decides. And then just ask for signatures, of council and that. So I entertain questions about the plan or the narrative, if you have something specific you want to ask.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Brown?
On page 2, at the very top, the first paragraph there, that last sentence starts with appropriations, in that first paragraph. It's appropriations for all other funds will be passed at the fund level. That means it won't be split out at all?
That's the minimum requirement. We can do more or less, but that's the minimum requirement that we have to do.
I'm sorry, what's the minimum requirement?
What I said here at the fund level.
At the fund level?
You can do more, but according to the budget commission, you don't usually send a line item budget. It's broken out usually in personal and capital and others, usually.
So at the fund level, each special fund will have personnel and another, at least?
Yes, because most of the special funds really just have others. There's very few of them that have personnel involved. But if there's personnel, we will outline that, yes.
Is that a requirement for every fund that there's at least personnel, or at least 2 sections, personnel and then other?
The requirement is what you see in your question on this report that I passed out. If you take a look back on page 2, for example, of the forecast, where you see salary and wages, I have overtime, fringe benefits and taxes and others. That's basically what you send. The requirement is just what they call personal, which would be fringes and salaries, sometimes added together, and then anything else.
Okay.
And capital. If there was any capital expenditure, it would be listed. But those are the minimum requirements.
So each special fund will have a small breakdown like that?
The special funds,
Each of the special, you said each of the other funds?
for the most part, most of them just have other. They don't have salaries and wages. We have a few that do, and it will be shown. But like I say, this is the minimum requirement that will be sent in this format. As I mentioned, because of the 14 and out, I extended it for the mere fact that we do have other pays that I thought this body would be interested in, so I broke it out. But the commission, well, I shouldn't use the word commission because we're not under the advisory of the commission. That is only with emergency. So right now, we're just really working with the auditor of state. But the supervisors that represent the auditor of state and their format is basically what you see, those 4 line items.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I'd like to make a suggestion on page 2 about the timeline. Page 2, paragraph D, given with the holidays and stuff, I'd like to have it read before the second meeting in December, which is usually, in the fall, we start 2 meetings every month. So I'd like, that would allow an extra 14 to 15 days for us to schedule committee meetings and stuff like that. And if we do it before the second meeting, that would still allow time for approval, and then before the 31st.
So the second,
December.
Well, this is this just for 14, or is this the plan in general?
the plan in general.
That's why I said before the second meeting in December.
Go ahead.
My comment regarding that is that the second meeting could be as late as the 21st of December. And I think that will cause real issues, especially if there had to be special meetings, the holidays there. This must be approved by the 31st, and if you have 3 readings. So if you would like to put the second, that's very unusual. We usually see it spelled out to give this body and myself, after the meeting, if there's changes as we discuss now, we have to go back and put those changes in. So hypothetically, if the second meeting falls on the 21st of the month, with the holidays, I think, it may not be this year, but I can see that we would have some issues with vacations and holidays, and just meeting the 31st deadline. And most of the legislators seems to need 3 readings, so I recommend that we leave it as it is. And basically, this is late according to a lot of the standards. They like to have it sooner. But I thought this would give us time to, especially being in fiscal watch, to have ample time as we're doing now to discuss the budgets and to accommodate most people's schedule.
And Chair, actually, I kind of disagree, because if you look at the timeline from October to November, we're going to lose probably 3 or 4 days right there, almost a week, just because of that holiday. So if there could be some way to extend it, you know, I'm just looking at, possibly, we're going to have several meetings like we have this month.
In November, we're not allowed.
Yeah,
In November, but not.
But hopefully not December.
right, and this can be changed at any time, right?
Yes, we can change.
That date, so like, say like for 2014, we could just say it has to be by, I think the second meeting in December, the 17th, so if we could like extend that out to the 10th, it just gives us more time frame, that's all. Well, that's what I mean, it gives us more time, because you have the holiday, people are going to go on vacations.
Irene, go ahead.
Madam Chair, if we read through the whole paragraph, it is saying that by December the 1st, council shall complete its budget hearings, which means discussions. If we don't have these discussions until the 21st, say hypothetically, and then start meeting for the 3 readings, I just don't know that's possible. I mean, this is saying that we will have the discussions completed.
Well, the discussions can be a meeting too. We've done that, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, it'll be in November.
I just think the time frames too.
This is not an unusual time frame. This is pretty
Actually,
much.
this is late according to standards. Most documents, especially look at the samples you had, I think that date was November. I did move it back for that very reason. But if you look at the samples that were sent from, I think it was 4 that were sent for the plans, you will see that that date was probably earlier than what we have here.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
October has 5 Wednesdays, and on your C, it says honor before November 1st. Before November 1st could be October 29th. That would give you an extra week in there.
Well,
But I don't see how, with 3 readings going on, I agree, I don't see how we can do 3 readings in the week of Christmas.
Back-to-back meetings.
The second meeting of December is the 17th. A week from that day is Christmas Eve.
Madam Chair.
We were saying we had questions.
I'd rather have more time before October.
Well, can these dates be changed or altered, even though you're going to send it down? Is this absolutely cemented in place? You cannot change them? We
Well, it's
can't.
in place for the time that they make their approval or disapproval.
Okay,
And of course, we have to go back to the approval. But usually, this is not what's altered on an as
maybe?
regular basis. Usually when they say alter, they're really talking about the numbers because numbers are fluid and they move. But usually in terms of a process, the process is not to be changed often or whatever unless there's a reason for it. So this is basically a process. And my understanding is that usually the process is the process. Now the numbers, yes, I mean anything could happen, or if any of these numbers change drastically, yes, we go back in with a revision. But it's not the intent, and I'm not saying that it can't. I'm just saying it's highly unusual, not customary, to keep changing the process.
I understand, okay.